Hi everyone, I hope that you are staying positive and testing negative. I'm sorry if it's a little bit windy outside. I'm going to be talking about episode 4 of the Vietnam War docuseries, which is titled Resolve. The clip I will be analyzing is from minute 4 at 42 seconds to minute 6 at 42 seconds, so exactly 2 minutes. Even though this clip was at the very beginning of the episode, I thought that it did a really great job of summarizing what's going on in the episode from a thematic level. It basically frames the Vietnam War by contrasting it to World War I and World War II in terms of the international environment, the domestic environment, about attitudes about these conflicts, and then the terrain in the battlefield areas of the conflicts themselves. And so I just thought that that was a really great way of setting up the episode and reminding people that this war was completely different from these other ones, even though obviously the experience of those world wars was very drastic and something that the people who had lived through that had in the back of their minds the whole time. So diving in, the first difference between the world wars and the Vietnam War that they discuss is that the world wars were obviously a very global war, whereas the Vietnam War was much more localized and limited in terms of the nations that were participating. The episode mentions that only 5 nations, other than the United States, sent combat troops over to the area of conflict, and then those who did send troops were much more localized. The United States was kind of the one that was the farthest away, whereas the others were near that area of the globe, like some of them were Australia and New Zealand, which are obviously right there involved in that issue because it is kind of in their backyard. And then the biggest allies of America didn't really get involved, like Canada and France. They actually had a completely different approach than the United States. They wanted them to stay out of it and things like that. The other biggest difference that the episode talks about in great length is the domestic environment in the United States, in that the Vietnam War was very much opposed by the American people, whereas in World War I and World War II, it was kind of a citizen's duty to participate in the war effort and support it in any way they could. And then the final difference is the environment in the battleground area. There were some pictures in this clip that did a really good job of illustrating this. There were a lot of pictures of, like one in particular, there was a picture of a tank behind a local resident in a like horse drawn cart, and I thought that that really went to show how America was kind of approaching this war in the same way that they did the last one, where a lot of it revolved around capturing these cities that before they were evacuated were very big concentrated areas of populations, whereas here it's very much a more rural setting, and because of that and because there's not as much evacuation, they do encounter civilians much more. There was another picture in this clip of an American soldier just resting on a water bank, and there's a mother and her 2 children, what looks like bathing in that water source about like a foot away while he is carrying a weapon. So that definitely makes it much more like the American people probably a little bit more apprehensive about their support when civilians are, you know, could be literally a foot away from something like that. And so those were the main differences that I saw between the Vietnam War and the World Wars that were pulled out thematically from this episode.